Hello all, I will just start the presentation. Thank you, Punia, for your words. And this is just a legal disclaimer, as you probably know it from the previous webinars, if you are there for the not first time. And okay, so again, hello all. I hope that you can hear me well. I am very grateful that you decide to connect us specifically on this webinar. Thank you all. This point is that I would like to introduce also myself, of course. My name is Ondřej Klouček, and I work in Mibcon and DC as a senior business consultant for, let's say, almost 5 years. I was participating on mainly on SAP business planning and consolidation customers implementations. So SAP BPC is my original expertise. But then I realized that the cloud is the way, and that's the reason. But that's the reason why before 2 years, I changed my professional focus on SAP Analytics Cloud. In that times, it was called the former product name SAP Business Objects Cloud, and I was personally involved in all of our SAP Analytics Cloud implemented solutions, in all of our SAP Analytics Cloud implemented solution by Mibcon as it is. Now let's move on the agenda of this webinar. Firstly, I will slightly introduce our company, Mibcon and DC, and then we move directly on both Planet use cases. It means Hagleitner Hygiene and Czech Football Association. We will be discussing utilization of SAP within Hagleitner Hygiene and impact of the new technologies and on their business model and business processes within the organization. Second use case is focused on a SAP Analytics Cloud, in that case planning and reporting solutions delivered for Czech Football Association. So firstly, it will be just about the reporting and the dashboards and the technologies behind, and the second use case is mainly on planning possibilities of SAP Analytics Cloud. And last point, and are already mentioned questions, and hopefully also the answers will be the topic. So let's move on the next slide. So firstly, as promised, let's start with a short Mibcon and DC overview. Mibcon and DC is SAP Gold Partner based in Czech Republic in the Central Europe. We are strongly focused on analytics and reporting and planning solutions implemented, let's say, dominantly on SAP technologies. Not only on SAP technologies, but definitely dominantly. And currently we are operating in countries across the whole Europe. We have also projects running in Arabia countries. And for example, one of our customers is located also in Philippines. So basically, I think that we can talk about worldwide based company. Let's move on specific references in today's topic, which is SAP Analytics Cloud. As Punia already mentioned, we were really the early adopter of this tool. And with regards to SAP Analytics Cloud, we have been in this solution, or let's say tool, from the very first start. We have been first SAP partner in Europe who successfully sold licenses and successfully delivered planning solution based on SAP Analytics Cloud. And this customer is already mentioned, Czech Football Association. So this was we believe this was the first utilization of SAP Analytics Cloud planning in Europe. And we are working with SAP development on our own developed SAP Analytics Cloud extensions, which are possible to find on SAP App Center. For example, we already published there our sports budgeting, public budgeting, and production simulation content for SAP Analytics Cloud. And you can find these extensions directly on SAP App Center in the list of existing apps. Thanks to our fresh adoption of this tool, we also became SAP official sole partner for SAP Analytics Cloud trainings in MEE market. You can find these courses with the name WDACA. And we we have developed two major trainings. One is focused on analytics functionalities, and one is focused mainly on planning functionalities within SAP Analytics Cloud. So we are just last or pre-last slide about our company. Let's move on shortly on the history of Mibcon. We are trusted SAP partner for almost 20 years. As in our history, we were awarded several times for our work in SAP Analytics. Currently, we were awarded 7 times in SAP Analytics portfolio, and would like to briefly mention our major success, which was the SAP Gold Medal at EMEA level in 2015 for the category Fast Delivery. This award was awarded for SAP Miller project in SAP BPC. And you can also see on the right side the logo of Czech Football Association. So we have been already awarded with SAP Quality Award for directly SAP Analytics Cloud solution. It was in this year, in 2017. So let's move on. Just the last slide about our company. You can see some of the other major references in SAP Analytics portfolio. And then we are finishing the first part of this presentation, and we are moving to the most important section, the use cases. Let's start with the Hagleitner Hygiene. This company is one of the biggest company in that business. We will start. It's an Austria-based company, Hagleitner Hygiene, and the Hagleitner, as I already mentioned, is the leading and complete solution provider for professional hygiene and offers a comprehensive range of cleaning products and equipment. So basically, they are producing the soaps, all the things related to the liquid soaps, all the things related to the disinfections, and also all these products, and also the cleaning equipment, not just the soaps. As for Hagleitner, we would like to demonstrate now the Internet of Things, and in this case also SAP Analytics Cloud. How these solutions and how these technologies can change the operation of the business, and how they can lead to a full redefinition of the business model within the organization. As I have already mentioned, the Hagleitner is Austria-based company, which is one of the European market provider for decades, and their business is basically soap, cleaning products, and cleaning equipment. But let's see a little bit in a detail. So basically, get to the Hagleitner. Historically, they were selling the soaps and disinfection fluid. That was their primary product in the past. So basically, it could be described as a chemistry business and products. The customers were typically huge organizations with significant consumption of these products. So, for example, hotels, petrol stations, hospitals, and yes, these types of customers were the former customers. But in the past, they also start to produce the dispensers for the cleaning liquids and cleaning products. For example, paper towels. So not just the content, but also the dispensers. And time is running, and they have also developed system of sensors for each of the dispensers. And these dispensers and these sensors are able to collect many of useful data. For example, remaining capacity of the content in the dispenser, how often is the machine used, and so on. All these data are easily usable for deeper analysis, for example, for managed supply chain and for optimization of supply chain. That's the two major topics, basically. So therefore, it's possible to say that their business model is changed to service-oriented, and customers now pay for availability and for the usage. Of course, they pay also for the content, but mainly they buy it as a service. They buy the possibility that their people who will be inside these buildings will be able to use the machines and use the content without any care from the customer side. All these operations are covered by the supplier, which is Hagleitner, and they need to know what is happening inside their machines. So there's the reason why they developed system of the sensors and system of dispensers equipped by these sensors. Now on this slide you can see just simple example of how the dispensers with sensors looks like. For example, on the left side, on the right side next to the water machine, and in any of them is approximately 25 sensors. In each of these dispensers, each of them contains 25 sensors, and all collected data from these dispensers are real-time transferred over the RFD technology into the central unit in the building, and then to the central data warehouse on SAP Cloud Platform. Into the HANA database, basically. Hagleitner produces also all the sensors, all the technical features, and additional equipment. So you can basically see evolution from narrowly focused chemistry business to something totally different based on the technologies and innovations. Let's move on the next slide. Okay. Now we could just get a short project overview. So behind us we have just overview of the company Hagleitner, and now we should move on delivered and implemented solution. The goal was basically to create a real-time reporting platform on the massive amount of stored data, and where the data sets are growing dramatically every day also, of course. So basically the solution should be reporting analysis solution on HCP data warehouse, and the reporting layer were selected as SAP Analytics Cloud. On the right side you can see a simplified architecture. So in the down level you have dispensers which are collecting the data, sending it to the, as I mentioned, the data are sent over the RFD technology to the central unit in the building, and from the building the data are sent into the central SAP Cloud Platform HANA database, and upon this HANA database we build and we design a couple of calculation views which are possible to utilize in SAP Analytics Cloud as a source for the data, as a source for the reporting layer, as a source for the data, and we build dashboards and reports upon these data provided by calculation views on HANA. So, and in this case we are speaking about billion of rows in one single HANA database table. So you can imagine that optimization of the views and let's say taking care about the performance and these kind of aspects was also very important within this project. So we spent lots of time with optimizing, but after this experience we can say that the HANA was absolutely only the one possibility what we can utilize. I think that without HANA we will not be able to deliver such a massive real-time reporting on such big mass of data, big massive of data, part of the data. All calculations are running real-time. So for example, if the customer or if the user of the reporting reselect the data context, for example, he select different time period, and in that moment, once he click on the selection of time, the system needs to recalculate all the averages, all the measures displayed on the dashboard upon the user's request. So it means that we are speaking about the real-time calculations, and of course Internet of Things, because the data are growing rapidly, and each of the machine, each of the dispenser produce thousands lines every day. And yes, just a brief overview of use technologies. So basically, I will just say it again. We use SAP Analytics Cloud as a reporting layer, and in that tool we define all the reports, all the dashboards. We also utilize live connection into the HANA, in our case into the HANA in cloud. So basically SAP Cloud Platform was selected as a database layer, and there we developed calculation views. What is interesting and what is also good to mention maybe is that we also utilized user accounts were integrated between SAC and SAP Cloud Platform with single sign-on. So the user is not required to authorize in both systems. The authorization is shared, and the user is just consuming the content without any annoying multiple user accounts process. So let's move on to the next slide. Imagine that now I will be just speaking about the massive of data and about that you can imagine all data from all sensors, from all these sensors, from entire world. Basically, in our case, when we were developing the project, it was entire Europe in one single database table. So it means that we have to design and develop many of calculation views, which were used for the reporting, and we need to. So yeah, we need to think about the used dimensions in our design of views, and so now you are able to see simplified reporting model which will contain these dimensions: customers, consumptions, volumes, and as you can see on the slide, we are speaking about all of technologies. We are speaking about the cube, and so it means that the calculation views are basically the cubes. What was also important for the reporting was products, costs, location of the sensors, location of the machines around Europe. Now we can just move on. This is just example of how the reports look like in the end. This was just the first outputs from the system, and now I also prepared for you a very short live overview of the solution. So let's spend 1 minute maybe in the system. I just recorded the video for you to be able to show you how the system reacts. So this is just, for example, one report which is called average dispense report. That's used for in that case, if the customer wants to see how often the people inside the building, inside their property use the machines, for example, in our case, foam or soap dispensers, and what was the average dispensed volume. So there are two major KPIs, average dispense in milliliters and usage count in basically records count. On the right side, you are able to see the filter, when you can just easily filter all the location of this customer where the sensors are or where the dispensers are located. And of course, you are able to filter devices on the left side and the time dimension. So you would like to see these reports are basically, it looks like they are very important actually from perspective of, for example, hospitals, because hospitals need to take care about these numbers in case of some viral infections, and it's necessary to take care that the users or the people inside the hospital that everything is fine and everything is correct from the perspective of hygiene. So if the user just starts the reporting, he can very easily switch the time dimension from 1 month to different months, and you can just see that the HANA recalculate the billion of records and deliver the new values for the customer, for the user of the solution. So the user is able to see different values in 2-3 seconds, very fast time reaction. If you can imagine that behind these reports are one single table with million of records. And okay, so that was just. This is how I want to show you what is possible to build on something like hygiene dispensers, and what was able because the HANA, and what was able because the cloud-based technologies within SAP environment. Okay, you can just see that the system reacts very fast, very prompt, and the user is able to see all necessary information just by one click. And you can just select all the locations, and as I said, that was just in a short example how the system looks. And then we can continue on our next use case, which was already mentioned, Czech Football Association. In first use case, we were speaking about SAP Analytics Cloud and just about the analytics and reporting features. And that's the most often usage of SAP. But Czech Football Association is something different. They already using SAP Analytics Cloud. Formerly, they bought it. It was SAP Business Objects Cloud, of course. But currently, they are using this tool for planning and, of course, also for reporting. But mainly, the most important feature for them and most important technology for them is that they are able to collect all the budgets, all the information, all the budget requests, of course, and all the information regarding the budgeting process in cloud without any infrastructure, without any hardware, and really fast and really smooth. So that's the reason why we connect, during the analysis, we recommend them to utilize SAP planning. And let's move on and take a look on the project from detail. So basically just a simple introduction of what is the Czech Football Association. Czech Football Association is the only one football association in the Czech Republic. So all the clubs, all the active football club players and football club members are members of Czech Football Association. So it means that in current numbers we are speaking about 300,000 active football club members, which are also members of the Football Association, about almost 3,500 of clubs. And also we are speaking about 3 local leagues, which are driven or controlled or managed by Czech Football Association directly, and plus international matches. So if Czech Football Association, if Czech national team is on, for example, European Championship, it's also managed and driven by Czech Football Association, of course. So in this project, basically the customer had been facing 2 major challenges. The first challenge was to manage the club funding, which is the first part. The club's funding, where it's necessary to follow, of course, the specific funding process with many principles and rules defined by external partners. In that case, for example, FIFA programs, UEFA programs, and of course, one of the major and maybe most important is the Czech Ministry of Sport and Culture. And you can imagine that these all partners are defining their own rules and from the perspective of funding, and they also wants to see how the budget is fulfilled. So they want to monitor, they want to be reported from time to time about the execution of the budget. So it means that all 300,500 clubs needs to define their budget and needs to define their budget funding sources and get the funding sources manageable regarding the mentioned rules and principles. That was the customer, one of the most important challenge, and that's the reason why they think about new solution and why they open the discussion with us about the final implementation of SAP. The second important part is the itself association budget, and because one part is the club funding and the second part of the budget is itself association budget. They are working with the project-oriented budget, where we are speaking about hundreds of different projects every year. For example, if the Czech national team has some international match, it's necessary to build specific budgets and specific plan just for this project, discuss this with the partner and show to the partner of the funding all the important numbers very fast and very agile, I will say. So it means that all planned project costs needs to follow sets of funding criteria, and all costs needs to be traceable to their funding sources. This is one of the most important things, that you need to be able to get to the funding partner for which of the action, for which of the projects you utilize specifically their funding sources. That's one of the most important questions if you are speaking about sports budgeting, and I believe not just about the Czech sport budgeting, but sports budgeting within the all sports organization all over the world probably. And next important feature is to be able to analyze budget with actuals spendings immediately as it enters accounting. Okay, that was about the two major challenges from the perspective of customer. And last important challenge was the request. The last important challenge was on us as a implementator and developer of the solution. And it was the requested quick delivery in a couple of weeks in case of pilot solutions. That was one of the aspects why we select SAP Analytics Cloud, because this selection allows us to be very agile and work in lean development without any infrastructure questions and without any hardware issues. We don't have to wait until the customer basis team will prepare the environment for us, and you know what I mean. So this was the selection of cloud solution was strategical in that case, that we need to be fast and very agile in the changes. So now let's move on the next slide, where we have some simple solution overview in case of Czech Football Association budgeting and planning solution built on SAP Analytics Cloud. For example, if you are speaking about the functionalities, as I already mentioned, one of the most important is track and manage budget execution and also budget to actuals reporting. We are utilizing their data on a daily basis from their accounting system, and we build integration platform for the accounting system to the SAP Analytics Cloud, and we are able to compare budget execution to the budget execution to the actuals on a daily basis, and they are able to compare expected budget costs to the actual cost, and they are able to get some adequate reaction on unexpected changes, on unexpected values very fast and without any time spent on searching the differences. We are able to compare it very fast and in cloud and in very simple designed reports for them. In case of benefits, when we are speaking about for the first time, maybe I will just go back. If you are speaking on the left side about the managing the club's funding, and we are speaking, as I already mentioned, about 3,500 of clubs. The only way, in my opinion, how they are able to collect the budgeting data and how all these clubs will be able to inform the Football Association about their funding sources and about their budget request is, in my opinion, to select some cloud-based planning application, because there is no way how you can provide all these association member with the appropriate software if it will be some on-premise solution. But let's say there is no simple way how to do it. Of course, there are some ways, but the cloud, they just log into the Google Chrome window and they are fine. They are able to collect the budget and they are able to request budget funding from Football Association. Everything is traceable, everything is fast and simple to use, of course, because if you are speaking about such a massive of users, it's also necessary to make it as simple as possible, we think. And the last point, what I already mentioned, is the importance of fast delivery. That was also one of the key topics. We need to get next year budgeting cycle. So we built some initial pilot to the major part of the budget, and the pilots were developed more and more and more during the budgeting cycle, and the customer were happy and the customer were able to collect all necessary information in cloud very fast. There is the funding process from the total perspective. So basically the process starts with the apply for funding. So the club on the left side, you can see the numbers, and the club will ask about some money for the specific project, for specific operation, or just for the operations running in the club, within the club. Next step is the funding contract between a football association and specific partner, in that case club. And then the project itself, or the action, or the match, for example, if we are speaking about international match running, and after that project, it's necessary to review and compare actuals, the spendings to the budgeted spendings, and validate and evaluate somehow the project, and then collect the data from all these projects and report it to the authority. As I said, UEFA, FIFA, and, for example, Czech Ministry of Sports. All these authorities have their own system, how they want to be informed, and you have to be very agile in the reality that you need to deliver them the numbers very fast and very correct. So now we are taking a look. You can see one of our input form, what we developed for the customer. It's, if I'm going back, this is the application for apply for funding. So it means that the club, on the right side, you can see specific club, which is logged into the system for the specific period. On the left side is simplified, let's say, P&L, which contains some possible cost element, and there are some sources of funding, and they are able to fill. There is also the text part below this slide, when they can comment some additional details regarding the project, and they are able to deliver all necessary information from the financial perspective to the authorities, in that case, Czech Football Association. So this is one of the basic input forms, which is used for application of budget. Next slide is screenshot of review. So it means that there are some, again, cost elements, and you are able to compare budgeted costs and actual spendings, and compare the differences. And of course, there is a field to be able to comment why there were some significant changes. For example, some situation was different than expected, so that's the reason. And we are able to collect all these data and build the reports for authorities, and build the reports, consolidated reports and consolidated overview for the Czech Football Association managers, that they are able to see in real time once the club is filling these values. Each of the clubs is filling their own budget request, and once they are filling the values, the managers or the CFO of Czech Football Association is able to go simply to SAP Analytics Cloud, and he is utilizing predefined dashboards, predefined reports, and he is able to see what happened directly in real time in the clubs. If you can imagine the situation before, probably they were sending thousands of Excel between the central unit and, the old way how it was solved. Now they are able to react very rapidly. So if they are able to see some values, unexpected values, they can have prompt reaction on the level of club and have some very fast feedback to the club that something is necessary to change because this and this and this fund requirement and it's not covered, for example, by the funding sources. This is the final funding statement, which is taken and sent it. For example, this one is designed directly for the Czech Minister of Sports. And we can continue with the additional insight to the solution. That this is the dashboarding, as I already mentioned. You are able to see clubs and their funding. For example, this is filter for the clubs from the second league. You are able to see where the clubs are located and what was their spendings. You are able to see basically all the operations running inside the company, inside the organization. All these dashboards were delivered by the request of the customer, of course. And for example, there on the left side, you are able to see how we develop the plan of the overheads. So this is, for example, if we are speaking not about the clubs, but about the budget of association itself, this input form in SAC is designed to be able to collect values about the overheads planning for each of the cost center. So as everybody knows, typically in every organization there are a system of cost centers, and they are planning overheads from the cost center's perspective. So this input forms delivered in SAC planning is used for these operations. They are able to see also some, if the manager of the cost center is planning the overheads, then on the right side, he has already prepared a chart which is comparing the revenues and costs, and then he is able to see that he is missing some funds. And by one click, he got the information that in that case, he is missing more than 55% of funds, is not covered by existing revenues. So he already know he didn't save the values, he needs to change the values, and he needs to react promptly without any additional communication, without any additional work spending on these activities. Let's move on to the different insight. Yes, that's again the perspective of, for example, if you want to just compare some cost elements per specific projects, per specific countries. For example, if you have some multiple national, international team football matches over the Europe, and your costs are in the budgeting cycle separated by some segments. For example, in that case, you have some catering and flights, bus and food and drink slots, and you are easily, as a manager, to see why I have so make differences between these, and you are able to find some savings. And that's one of the question in this project, that the solution should help find some significant volume of savings in their budgeting cycle, because the typical issues, for example, duplication of budgeting streams, duplication of funding streams. You have funding from European Union. You have different funding sources from Czech Football Ministry, Czech Sports Ministry, sorry. And if you have simple overview of the budgeting cycle, and if you have simple overview of this budgeting and comparing, you are able to compare the values also to the actuals. You are able to find some savings, and you are able to prepare the budget more precisely and more effectively, of course. And that's the delivered results. And we can see there that the delivered results where these values are coming directly from the customer. So they identify that they are able to save. They were able to identify about 400,000 euros savings in the first year of running of the solutions. The process of budgeting was much faster, 69% saved on budget preparation and 73.5% faster budgeting cycles at all, the whole budgeting cycle, not just budget preparation. And yes, one of the identified most important deliverables was the immediate possibility to check of funding for each action according to fund rules. And as I mentioned, the fund rules are in this case the most important thing, because, for example, you are getting money from some specific grants, and these money are able to be used just for specific operations. And you need to be able to trace all these funding streams and say this money is able to use just for this, and this money stream is possible use, for example, just for these type of costs. And one of the also important significant minimization of budget discussions. And then we have the official statement of the Czech Football Association Chief of Finance, and I believe that currently we are on the last slide of my presentation.